Hey guys, welcome to week 2 of RKR. We ran the legacy layout this week, which I hadn't done before, but there's really only one corner to learn. I'm editing this the same way as last week, so what you're about to see is my fastest from qualifying, a 56.4, which will put me P1 and turn out to be my fastest of the day. So I had a pretty good kart for qualifying, as you saw, and that lap was pretty decent except for turn 4, which was kind of scrappy. So now anyways, starting P1 for the pre-final, and I would be in 34, just like last week in the pre-final. And if you remember, that was not a good time, and I thought I was going to be in for it again. But it turned out I would actually be lucky with this kart because it was night and day from last week, as I would find out pretty quickly here. Would still struggle a bit turning right, but nowhere near as bad. So anyways, here as we get ready for the start, I wouldn't have the greatest start ever, but I would get a few bumps from behind here to kind of propel me out into the lead. And for the first few laps here, you'll kind of see me struggle under braking a little bit, be off some of the apexes, but eventually I would figure it out. really bad exit, and that allowed him to close up a bit on me here. And right here, he thought about going for into one, but decided not to. So for now, holding on to P1, but he is right on my bumper. So right here, since he's so close, I try to go defensive here, but I just completely bottle it. He's able to get a really nice switchback, so I fall down to P2 here. But right here, after he passed me, is when I would finally start to figure out my braking. got just a slightly better exit there, so I used the slipstream and that to help me get alongside into one here, and I'm able to clear him, but he kind of does a mini switchback to get alongside going into two. So I decided to go for my own switchback here. And going around the outside of three is kind of a weird place to do so, but I decided to just try it here, and it actually worked. Because going into turn 4, I was able to get the inside, and this time I was able to successfully park it on the apex to stay ahead of him here. But he's super close going into 5 here, so I know I have to go defensive. And I wash out just a little bit, but I still just carry just enough speed to stay ahead of him going into the S's here. Right here I would get a slight bump and that would send me out wide just a little bit. So right here I kind of just have to concede to here and try to get a better exit. And I do, because right there he hits the curve and that slows him down a bit. Now it's just a drag race to the line. I just barely beat him out there by 4/100ths of a second. And that was such a fun battle as we both had super equal cars, and you saw us give the thumbs up there. So anyways, yeah, I got to secure the pole for the main, and I also got the fastest lap at a 56.5, which is 1/10 slower than qualifying. So I ended up with 5 for the main here, and I had super lucky brakes, but this would definitely be my best driving of the day, even though the lap times would be slower. So anyways, I got a pretty mid start here, but I got some good bumps to propel me into the lead into 1. And this time I decided to go defensive into 2, and that allows me to keep the lead here. I also decided to go defensive into 4 here, but I have a lockup and go pretty wide, but I think the person behind me kind of made the same mistake because I still gain time and I have a decent gap here as we're halfway through the first lap. right here, I crossed the line to take P1 to complete the clean sweep of the weekend. My fastest lap of that race was a 56.8, which was 4/10 slower than qualifying. But anyways, both my driving and my luck improved from last week, which was always nice. Still not perfect, but definitely much better than last week. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.